But Brandon, let's move on into our next topic, or our next segment of the big board. We're going to be looking at 6 through 15. If you are just joining us on YouTube, make sure to check out our first segment of when we did 16 through 25, talked about running backs and Ed Oliver. In that one, if you're on podcast services around the world, thank you for trucking on through. This is now your third segment that you are listening to. Before we get into it, make sure to rate and review the Primetime Podcast on Apple Podcasts. That 5-star rating really goes a long way, and it helps us get into the ear holes of more people around the world, around basically the universe there. The universe is bigger than the world. So yeah, it gets us around the universe, gets us not even into human ears, into alien ears as well, that like their college football and their NFL draft. But Brandon, let's go through 6 through 15 before we get into what we're going to talk about. Let's start with you, 6 through 15. Start us off with your 15th.
All right, at number 15, I've got Noah Fant, the tight end from Iowa. At 14, Devin Bush, the linebacker from Michigan. At 13, Clellan Ferrell, the D-end, Clemson. At 12, Jawan Taylor, the offensive tackle from Florida. At 11, Drew Lock, the quarterback from Mizzou. At 10, Greedy Williams, the cornerback from LSU. At 9, Jonah Williams, the offensive tackle from Roll Tide. At 8, Rashawn Gary, the D-end from Michigan. At 7, Dwayne Haskins, the quarterback for the Ohio State. And at 6, Devin White, the linebacker from LSU.
Well, and then moving right along into mine, at number 15, Drew Lock, the quarterback from Mizzou. Then at 14, Jawan Taylor, the offensive tackle from the Florida Gators. Then at 13, Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle from the Clemson Tigers. Then at number 12, Devin Bush, the linebacker from Michigan. Then at 11, Jonah Williams, the offensive tackle from the Alabama Crimson Tide. Then at number 10, Kyler Murray, quarterback from Oklahoma and the Sooners. Then at number 9, Dwayne Haskins, the quarterback from the Ohio State University. At number 8, DK Metcalf, the wide receiver from Ole Miss. Then at number 7, Greedy Williams, the cornerback from the LSU Tigers. And then at number 6, Rashawn Gary, the defensive end from the Michigan Wolverines. And Brandon, the three guys we were going to talk about in this segment, DK Metcalf, Kyler Murray, and Drew Lock. Let's start off with DK Metcalf. He was a guy coming into the combine people had questions for, especially the injury history with the neck. Apparently, everyone's just freaking forgot about those, because not only is DK Metcalf a unique physical specimen, like looking at him with his shirt off just makes me wish that my abs can look like his. Like, he is like a
They
Greek.
can, Ricky.
He is like a Greek god with how ripped his just washboard abs are for DK Metcalf. But not even that. Outstanding 40. Outstanding vertical jump. Kind of blew up Twitter when he had his 4.33 40 at the combine. However, his mark thrown out. His three-cone drill wasn't great. His 20-yard shuttle time was not great. I want to ask you this. The hype for DK Metcalf and how he is shooting up boards, is it deserved? And should teams in the top 15 be taking, not the top 15, screw it. Should teams in the top 10 be taking a look at DK Metcalf? Because I had him at 8. You had him in our first grouping between 16 and 25. You had DK Metcalf at 17 on your big board.
So I had him at 17 is because last time I was going to put him in, but I just didn't feel that, again, it was before the combine, and he really, I mean, when you put him and Hollywood Brown next to each other, their college stats obviously are way different, but DK Metcalf missed time, and we know that. And that's why I kind of kept him out of the last big board, is because I wanted to see what he was going to do come combine time. And he was very impressive. I think that his 40-yard dash, that's incredible. That was the talk of the weekend and the late part of last week. is what he was doing and how well he was doing and just how crazy that was for a 4.3 40. Really a great time. I think that when you pair what he did at the combine with his stats, with his size, with his ability, you have a very, very good wide receiver, and most likely the most athletic wide receiver out of all of the receivers in the group, and one who certainly, Ricky, 1 through 10 come NFL draft, there's going to be a team that needs a wide receiver that's going to be looking his way.
No, and that's exactly what I said immediately after the combine when Mark and I talked about DK Metcalf on the onside kick, is there is going to be a team that now, with this combine performance, he is now, I love Marquise Hollywood Brown, don't get me wrong, but DK Metcalf is now the number one receiver for me, obviously, as I have him rated higher now than Marquise Hollywood Brown. But there is a team high up. I would not be surprised if a team in the top 10 takes a stab at him. And for me, the thing I'm looking for is, like I mentioned to Mark, Cardinals, 49ers, Jets, probably a little bit too high for DK. I'm not saying he's going to go 1, 2, or 3 in the draft, but I mean, I know they signed 2 wide receivers this offseason, but Buffalo at 9 could take a stab at him. You look at the Lions, hey, we're signing a bunch of defensive guys. Maybe we don't have to look defensive at number 9. Let's go with a wide receiver to give Matthew Stafford someone big to throw to. Or even Jacksonville at 7 could go, hey, we got Nick Foles. We need to give him some type of weapon, as we lost both of our Allens, Hearns, and Robinson, and that really hurt us last year. Let's get this athletic freak. And that is the question for me for DK, is many people are going to say with his 7.38 cone drill and his 4.5 shuttle time, many people are going to say, oh, well, that means he's not a good route runner. He's not a guy that's going to run the routes. But the question I'm starting to ask about DK, does he need to be a meticulous route runner to be an all-pro, even a great wide receiver at the next level? I'm starting to think he doesn't, because the only thing I'm thinking is with that speed he's got, that 4.3 speed, that 6'3 height, that 228-pound frame, those 9 7/8 sized hands, he could be a guy to where it's like, it's almost like, I want to say Alshon Jeffrey level of, like, when he was on the Bears, of like, just throw it up and DK will go get it. Like, DK, just run straight. We're going to have the quarterback throw it to you. Just jump and catch it. Get the ball at the highest point, catch it. Or, hey, we're going to hit you in stride. And if you get to hit him in stride, boom, he could be off to the races with that speed, to where I'm sitting here going, I don't really know if the route running question is really a huge issue, because the speed and the athleticism slap you in the face as soon as you look at DK Metcalf.
You know, I think that that's the biggest thing. I don't really worry about a 3-cone drill. I'll be honest with you. You know, I mean, how many more opportunities would he, if given the chance to do a 3-cone drill, would it be better? You know, I mean, this is where we really get to the nitty gritty of things, and this is where the scouts really come in, and they'll look at, oh man, the 3-cone drill. Well, he didn't do that well, but he did the 40-yard dash really well. What do we like better? For me, it's the 40-yard dash.
Yeah.
It's the speed. It's the speed paired with the athleticism that you said, and that's going to make him better. If he can beat those corners and the safeties and get over the top, and you've got a quarterback, hopefully you have a quarterback on the team that you go to, that can drop it into you, I think that that's going to end up being more successful. That's where he could be more successful. I'm not saying that he doesn't need to have any knowledge of route running or be good at it, but his qualities are his athleticism, his ability to go get the football, and his ability to speed past defenders. That's what he has to be able to use. And honestly, route running can be taught. He'll be fine.
Question for you, little prediction. When we get to draft day, who do you think goes off the board first? DK Metcalf or Hollywood Brown?
Probably DK Metcalf because of the fact that while
Just
Hollywood
the physical
Brown,
specimen?
while Hollywood Brown, again, I like him very much as well. But it's going to be the fact that DK Metcalf is just a freak athlete. Like you said, he was chiseled out by God. And, you know, the guy is just super athletic.
Some would say he is a Grecian god.
I believe that it'll end up being DK Metcalf. The best fit, I think, for him, maybe not the best fit, but the team who needs him the most out of those teams that you mentioned, Jacksonville, because they have nobody to throw to. No one.
Well, and I mean, because I just look at it.
And Nick Foles is a quarterback who can get you the ball.
Like, I think DK is going to go between 7 and 15. And the reason why I say that, Jacksonville needs people to throw to. The Lions need people to throw to. The Bills, I know they got their 2 wide receivers in Cole Beasley and John Brown. DK Metcalf, someone for Josh Allen to throw it out to. The Broncos, you think Joe Flacco needs someone to throw to? Get him someone to throw to. You've got the Packers who could also, it's not a big need, but they could. But the big one, the Redskins. The Redskins could need a wide receiver as well. So that's why I look 7 through 15 and think there's no doubt that DK Metcalf goes in the first round. The thing that I kind of chuckle with is that we had the conversation about Hollywood Brown, about how him not being like the 40-yard and everything at the combine because of his foot surgery or his foot injury. How would that hurt him? And it's funny that him not running it didn't necessarily hurt him. It's that DK Metcalf balled out with the 40 and the vert jump and the physicals that he jumped Marquise Brown. And it had nothing to do with Marquise Brown negative on him. It was just everyone now is looking DK Metcalf's way and might be eclipsing Hollywood Brown. But I want to move on into a different position on the offensive side, and that is the quarterback. And the one guy that everyone had their eyes on were Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray, he is above 5'10". However, he did not remeasure himself at the Oklahoma Pro Day. So I am conspiracy theorying he is not 5'10". He is below 5'10". He did not want the chance to be below it. I'm kidding, by the way, but he did not get measured at the Oklahoma Pro Day. So the height we have is 5'10", and a 1 out of 8. So he's just over 5'10". His hand size was good. Same hand size, I believe, as Baker Mayfield, if not bigger. I want to ask you what your thoughts of Kyler Murray are after the combine, because there were comments made by a certain former executive of the Washington Redskins that were not high of Kyler Murray and were questioning his leadership. I'm not going to spoil where you have Kyler, but obviously you have not said his name, so you have him in your top 5. What are your thoughts on Kyler Murray as of right now?
I love Kyler Murray. I think
Brandon's like, I secretly want to marry him.
that is false. But I think that I just like him because he's a playmaker. He's a playmaker. The guy is so versatile and he can do it all. And I understand that he may not be the most polished quarterback to ever come out of the draft. He may not be the guy who's ready, like right away on day 1 to win a championship for a team. Okay. Is Dwayne Haskins? Probably not. Let's see. From the quarterbacks from last year, Baker Mayfield did not win a championship in his first year with Cleveland. Sam Darnold didn't do it with the Jets.
Baker might do it in a second, though.
But also look at the weapons around him. He's been Baker Mayfield. What was so funny with Baker Mayfield, we were talking, oh gosh, if he goes to the Browns, man, that's going to be awful. And then all of a sudden, now it's like Christmas came very early for Baker Mayfield, and he has been set up for success. John Dorsey has set him up for success. So wherever Kyler Murray is going, if he is set up for success, if there are some pieces around him, he can do it. He can do it. I mean, again, I look again at a Russell Westbrook. Christ almighty.
Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson.
I do the same thing all the time. I mean Russell Wilson, I say Russell Westbrook. Hell, I mean Russell Westbrook, I say Russell Wilson. They're like the same person name-wise in my head.
So the football Russell.
Yeah.
I look at him and the success that he's had. Smaller quarterback, very mobile, good arm, can move around, can make plays with his legs, can make plays with his arms, is able to find wide receivers, moves the ball down the field. Kyler Murray can do all those things. Can he be better at all those things? Sure. You're going to have to get better as you get into the NFL. But he is, I think, a pretty accurate quarterback. Yes, there can be some inconsistency, but he's fully capable of doing everything on the field. He's fully capable of doing everything that he's asked to. He's very confident in many of his throws. He makes, again, big plays on both sides with his legs and with his arm. And again, with Justice Hill, going back to him and saying a team that wants a playmaker, a guy that can just hit the home run really whenever he touches the football. That's what I think of with Kyler Murray, is a guy who can really hit the home run at any time. And a dangerous weapon to have because, okay, if you're a defensive back or you're a defensive tackle and you're coming in and you're coming to get him, whoop, gets right around you, and all of a sudden a play that looked like, boom, this guy's going to be sacked, 20-yard pickup via his legs. That is what certainly will make him, I think, more exciting than your just average stand-in-the-pocket quarterback. And I understand that there's going to be people who will say that he needs to get better at his progressions. He needs to be more patient.
And
he needs to do things like that. But there's so much positive and so much potential there with Kyler Murray in the NFL.
And I want to actually ask you about that because this is from March 5th that this article is put up by the New York Post. If you want to hear my thoughts on it, I'm going to put it above Brandon. Mark and I talked about these on the Onside Kick post-combine, but I have not been able to ask you about them, and I want to know what you think. So following the combine with Kyler Murray, we had two former executives speak out about them. At this point, we've heard many things. Bill Belichick bashing the first one, being like, well, there's a reason why you're not in the NFL anymore, because he sucks. And it's like, damn, Bill Belichick said that about you. Ooh, how bad must you be? But the comments were made. I want to ask you about them. The first one was by Charlie Casserly, and he was a former longtime executive for the Washington Redskins. And here's what he said. He better hope Arizona Cardinal coach Cliff Kingsbury takes him number one because this was not good. There were worse comments. These were the worst comments I ever got on a high-rated quarterback, and I've been doing this a long time. Leadership, not good. Study habits, not good. The board work, below not good. Not good at all in any of those areas, raising major concerns about what this guy is going to do. Now, people will say we're going to compare him to Patrick Mahomes. We're going to run an offense like Mahomes. We're going to run an offense like Baker Mayfield. But these guys are much different. Those guys, you never question them about their ability on the board. You never question their leadership ability, which Mark even said we kind of did with Baker a little bit. Their work habits. They were outstanding in those areas. This guy is not outstanding in those areas, and it showed up in the interview. The second one was longtime NFL exec Scott McLaughlin, where basically he said on Monday Morning Quarterback, I saw his interviews during the Super Bowl, and they were awful. Awful. And to be a legit NFL quarterback, you've got to have leadership qualities like Baker. I know we drafted him in Cleveland, so I'm probably a little biased, but he controls the room. He walks in and it's like, whoa, watching Kyler do an interview is like, come on, guy. What do you got? Give me something. I'm sure they're trying to train him up, but the thing about it is that's his personality. He's just not a go-getter. Doesn't mean he can't be a good quarterback, just mean he's not going to be the guy in the locker room. Brett Favre was the guy. Russell Wilson is the guy. Baker is the guy. He just doesn't have the personality. If I was still a GM, it'd scare me. What are your thoughts taking that all in?
Well, for the first one, Charlie Casserly. So I will go to a guy who was drafted 7th overall last year, Josh Rosen. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's garbage. And
wasn't set up for success though. I will say that.
Certainly not. But at the same time, people question his leadership all the time. Mm-hmm. People question his ability to even want to play football. Mm-hmm. Drafted 7th overall. And, since then, yes.
The hot tub incident.
But you know what, though? but seriously, I didn't think that there was any problem with that. Yeah. I thought that was hysterical, truly. Mm-hmm. I thought that was hysterical.
But there were people that blew it up.
But there's the problem. There is the problem, mm-hmm. is that they're going to take one comment from one person.
Or just one picture.
Who had one experience or saw one thing, and it could be taken out of context, mm-hmm. or it could have been him being, a kid, or for one issue, one time. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that anyone can be judged on doing something one time. And, it's really unfortunate that's how some people will look at it and then go and talk about it and put it in the New York Post. Mm-hmm. On the second thing is that weren't those interviews around the Super Bowl? Isn't that when he still wasn't sure if he was doing baseball or if he was doing football?
Yeah.
And he didn't want to say anything. And you brought that up too. And I don't think
there was a better way to handle it. That's what I was thinking.
Don't do the interview yet.
Bingo. That would have been one.
But here's the thing is that he was probably uncomfortable even doing it. Mm-hmm. And clearly, by the comments and the avoiding the questions, he was uncomfortable doing it. Mm-hmm. So that's also a horrible example to try and use. And I guess these guys, they come in mm-hmm. and they're expected to be Peyton Manning and Tom Brady right off the bat. Have the leadership of Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and the qualities of that, and that you have to mm-hmm. be outspoken and vocal and this and that. You got on Baker for being outspoken and vocal. I loved it.
But mine was on the field of I didn't like the, hey, let's flip off these players. I didn't like the, hey, let's run from the cops. With me, it was a little bit, hey, let's not be a douchebag. The thing that I will say I always liked about Baker is that chip on his shoulder mentality, which the thing is that with the Casserly comments, I look at that and go, all right, you had one bad experience. Doesn't mean someone else can't look at it and go, no, I can fit a system around this guy. But when I look at the McCaughlin comments, that's because that dives into a more interesting conversation. Like you said, they're expected to come in and be the Tom Brady's, the Peyton Mannings. The reason why is this is not the quarterbacks of yesteryear, where this isn't like an Aaron Rodgers situation of here, sit behind one of the greats, and then eventually you'll get your start. Most of these guys, look at last year. Josh Allen starting last year at some point in the season. Baker Mayfield, week 3. Josh Rosen was starting at some point last year. Sam Darnold starting last year. All these guys, Lamar Jackson starting last year. All of those guys starting. And when you're handed the keys to the kingdom so soon, you have to understand the quarterback position is the most important position in all of football. And it's not just a position that we expect you to go out there and lead the team and be the guy to put the team on your back, but you're also the guy when things aren't going right, when there's issues in the locker room, this and that. Who's the first guy people turn to ask a question?
The head coach.
Besides the head coach,
the quarterback.
Like, you are the player that people look at, especially offense. You're the guy they look at. And the main thing I worry about with Kyler Murray is if you were that awkward in interviews when you didn't know whether you were going to play baseball or not, what's going to happen when you have to stand in front of the podium and talk to the media and they're drilling you with questions? Are you going to be able to learn how to do that and handle that? Or are you going to be a guy that shows what we've seen? Because if we see that same Kyler Murray, it's not going to be a good look for him, especially if he's on a team and that team is losing early on. Because Baker Mayfield, let's be honest, he was winning in college. When he took over the Browns, they started winning. They were a 7-7 team with Baker Mayfield. Mark and I looked that up yesterday. 7-7 with Baker Mayfield. So, I mean...
And should have been better because they got screwed out of a couple of games. They got screwed in that
freaking Oakland game that they should have won.
Big time.
And like I said on the podcast, Onside Kick, if Baker started the first two games, they probably beat Pittsburgh week 1 and that New Orleans game week 2, especially if their kicker could get a freaking field goal in that game.
They should have won
so they should have been better than what they were. But that's what scares me is like the guys that he threw out, Brett Favre, of course, legend, Russell Wilson, and then Baker Mayfield. All three of those guys, yes, Brett Favre had the humor. Like, that's how he played with the media, was he threw humor at it. Russell Wilson, a very tact individual in interviews. And then Baker, yeah, he's a straight shooter, but you could tell Baker's comfortable in his own shoes and is able to, you ask him a question, he's not afraid to answer it. Can Kyler Murray be the same thing like those guys?
So I know we've talked a lot about, leadership and things like that, but I think the biggest part of leadership is what do you do on the floor? Or, excuse me, I'm thinking basketball because we were just talking basketball earlier, but I'm all over the place tonight. But
it's hot in here, man.
It is. I think I've lost my brain, but it's melted out of my mind, out of my head, rather. But I think it's about performing on the field and showing your leadership first and foremost. And not everybody, we've seen so many players get up on that podium and in front of that podium and talk to the media, and not everybody's great at it. Not everybody is great at it. And some of them are quarterbacks that aren't wonderful at talking to the media. They don't have to be Tom Brady. They don't have to be Russell Wilson. They don't have. But here's what I want to get away from. I don't give a flying hoo-ha about this because, and I'm really getting frustrated now because we're going away from the fact of what he can do on the field and what he did at Oklahoma, and any of this crap, this garbage that this guy really doesn't care, that he's bad at preparing. Well, yeah, he must have been really bad at preparing when they lost all those games last year for Oklahoma. When they got to the when they got to the playoff, yeah, he must have been really bad at preparing. Hold on, I'm not done ranting. And is that seriously? You look at this guy. He can play. He can play football. He can compete. He can certainly compete better than Josh Rosen, and I cannot say that enough. He's going to be the #1 pick. I'm just going to say it. And he should be. And I understand that, yes, you have to have weapons around you. I understand, too, that, yes, you're going to be called upon earlier than an Aaron Rodgers ever was. You're not going to probably have the luxury of sitting behind someone for 3-4 years, whatever it might be. You're going to be thrown in. But look at this past year. Look at Sam Darnold. Look at Josh Allen. Look, these guys all had to learn on the fly. These guys all had to try and figure it out in the NFL because, yeah, college was great. And again, Kyler Murray falls into this. College was great. You were the star. You were the stud. But guess what? Things are not things are not going to be as slow for you, as it was in college. It wasn't going to be, okay, I see it. I can see the coverage, reading the coverage. This is easy. Now it's NFL coverages, NFL, all this stuff. And the game is going to move faster. It's going to move faster, and you will start to figure it out. And some guys will figure it out quicker. Some guys will figure it out slower. Some guys just never figure it out. Jamarcus Russell never got it. But I think that Kyler Murray is a guy that, if given the opportunity, he is just a weapon in and of himself. And he can figure it out. And he reminds me of a guy in the NFL who can make plays happen spontaneously on the spot. I'm not even going to mention the name. We all know him. And he's not there. He's not that guy. But he can do things similarly. And he has great ability. That's all I'm going to say on Kyler Murray now. I really am not interested in talking any more about what other GMs who are no longer in the NFL have to say about him, because it really doesn't quite matter.
Well, before your rant, what I was going to bring up is, like you said, not everyone is great on the mic. The example I was going to bring up is the Super Bowl the Panthers lost. How was Cam Newton on the mic?
Horrible.
We criticized him to the umpth degree of how he, after a huge loss in the Super Bowl that he was very, very, very upset about, we criticized him. Is Cam Newton not one of the solidified starters in this league?
Yeah, he is.
So there's that. Just because you're bad, like you make a mistake like that, or you're bad on the mic, doesn't mean you can't play quarterback. Here's my on-the-field question for Kyler Murray. And this will be, I won't have this answer until we see him in the NFL. At Oklahoma, he played behind the best offensive line in college football. Saw limited to no pressure. And the few pressure that he did see against Big 12 teams that don't play defense anyways, the limited pressure that he did see, he was able to escape from it. I want to see what happens when, especially like what happens, like what you just said happens. He goes to the Cardinals. I want to see what happens there, because their offensive line is, to quote the great Jim Mora Sr., the Cardinals' offensive line is diddly poo. They are not good. Like, I played them in Madden, and I was like, kill me after a season, because Josh Rosen could do nothing with that offensive line, even with me playing with him, and I'm a good Madden player. But that's what I want to see from Kyler Murray. What can you do when you don't have the best offensive line? Because if he goes to the Cardinals, he won't. And what are you going to do against that NFL type of defensive player, which you mentioned is bigger, faster, stronger than you saw in college? Like, the thing I want to throw out, yes, it was one game, but Oklahoma almost lost to Army. Just throwing that out there. Like, yes, great offensive line, but they weren't as perfect as many people like to think they are. And with Kyler Murray, what are you going to do against, like, if you Patrick Mahomes it and come in and prove me wrong? Like, remember when we did that segment, Brandon, believing in the Patrick Mahomes hype?
Oh, I do.
We actually got a comment on that recently. And the comment said, well, this segment sure aged well. Well, you're damn right. It aged horribly, because I was wrong. Patrick Mahomes, unlike Dak Prescott, proved me wrong. Dak Prescott making me look pretty good right now, although I predicted you were going to go to the Cowboys.
What did you predict from Dak Prescott? That he was going to be
way
bad?
Over, that we were way over. Not that he's like terrible or anything, that we, after that first year, way overhyped Dak Prescott.
Yeah,
he's not as good as we thought.
Yeah, I mean, he only just helped to bring the Cowboys to the playoffs last year.
Well, I mean, Zeke, without Zeke, let's see what he's doing. But Kyler Murray, that's who we're talking about. I want to see what he does with a poor offensive line, like he will have in Arizona, against the NFL caliber defensive players that he's going to have to go up against when he's drafted.
Well, I just want to say again, you look at what Josh Rosen was last year. Josh Rosen pocket passer. He ain't moving. If he's moving, it's in the child's pose for a sack. Kyler Murray brings much more than that. And he's got good elusiveness, good escapability. I'm not saying that he's never going to get sacked, because he certainly will. But he's more of a threat back there. And I truly do believe if you pair him with Cliff Kingsbury, you're going to make Cliff Kingsbury look good and Kyler Murray look really good.
The only thing I will say to that is, if many people are thinking like, oh man, his running ability is going to translate. Lamar Jackson was an amazing runner in college. Got to the NFL, most NFL teams, what do they want? Even like a Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, he can escape ability. But what do most coaches want you to do?
They want you to throw it.
They want you to throw the ball, not run the ball.
And what did he do? He threw it. He ran it.
That's what I'm saying.
He didn't throw it all the time. And then, yes, he started to throw it more and feel more comfortable towards the end of the season.
Mahomes or
Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
But look at how well he did running the football.
He was good, but at the same time, many people did question his arm. And that was the thing. Like, I know his arm is not the same as Kyler Murray. Like, Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray are not identical comparisons. Kyler Murray has the way better arm compared to Lamar Jackson, but Lamar Jackson relied on those legs a little bit too much at times, and that was his fault. Will Kyler Murray be the same thing if he gets a ton of pressure at the next level? That's the thing. I want to see what he does under pressure at the next level, because that's my biggest question. Last question I want to ask you, because we're gonna change things up here. We're gonna move Drew Lock to the next segment, because we've gone. It's a good conversation, but we've gone quite a while on Kyler Murray. I just want to ask you very quickly, because you've said it before. If you were the Cardinals, what are you doing at number 1?
I'm taking Kyler Murray number 1 because I don't want to be a crappy team forever.
All right. See, I am on the other side. We were going to have this conversation in the next segment, but because this one went a little bit longer, we're switching things up. I wouldn't take Nick Bosa, take Quinnen Williams, I would take Nick Bosa, take the pass rusher, because you just took a quarterback last year that I think is not a bad quarterback. He just had a bad coach and a bad system. With Cliff Kingsbury, I think Josh Rosen could take a step in the right direction his sophomore year. So why reinvent the wheel? Why take a step back trying to take another quarterback? That's just my thought.
Take Kyler, trade Rosen, be done with him.
Let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section, whether about Kyler Murray, about DJ Metcalf, about the Cardinals. Let us know what you guys are thinking down below in the comment section.